After our first round trip through the Nuke interface, I now want to dive deeper into compositing with you in this lesson. My name is Helge Maus from Pixeltrain. Great to have you back. So now we want to do something more productive. And so I started a new Nuke file by clicking here on File, New Comp. And what we now want to do is we want to look into the basics of node-based compositing in opposite to layer-based compositing, which you are maybe familiar with. To now load something into the system here, we need a node for that. And this is the read node. You find the read node here under this section, read here. But I'm so used to work in Nuke that I most of the time use the R key. So I use the R key here over the node graph to load now an image. So press the R key and I go here into my trainings files, and you will get the chance to download the trainings files on my Gumroad page for a really small fee or in my Patreon. But you will see that these data are not so important for the tutorial. So you can use really everything which you have on your hard drive. So it's for demonstration purposes. But if you want to spend a small fee for these tutorials as a thank you and a little support, I'm really glad for that. So I go into my images here, and here you see my bunch of images. And what I want to load first is an image of olives. And if I now select here this image here, you see these are the olives. And here you see in the preview, you remember you can open it here, that it's a little bit over 2K. Okay, let's load this in. To see this image now in the viewer, you have to hook it up. We have a viewer node here. This is the input number 1 for the 1 buffer. And to make a connection, you can do it by hand. The fast way is select the node and press the 1 key on your keyboard. And if you do that over the node graph, you make a connection between the viewer, buffer 1, and the node. So that's the fastest way of doing that. And now you see, okay, this is an image of olives. And the first thing I want to show you now here what has happened while you're loading your first plate. We have here a node, okay, that's clear. On the right side in the properties bin, we have now the options of the read node, and you see it's documenting a little bit by itself. You see the node is named read1, and you also see what you have loaded here with the name, and this is the name of the node. And if you want, you can change the name here, for example, let's say olives, only that we later know what we have done. And now you see the text here. Then you see, like in every procedural program, you have now the options where you, for example, can now exchange the file to a new version or so. So if you want, you can go in here again and load something else. Really often in production, a new version of that. So no image data is stored inside of the Nuke file. Everything is referenced, and so you as an artist have to make a decision how you want to organize all your stuff. You've seen where my trainings data are, so if I now want to save the whole thing, that's a good idea. So let's go to Save Comp As. I go here into my folder where my trainings data are. I have here a new folder with the name Nuke Scripts, and there I can now type in a name for that, for example, olives, and then this script is saved. You see my ending here, NK for a Nuke script, and now everything is saved. And now we can work from here. Okay, great. We don't need that here at the moment. And the next thing is we want to load another plate. So let's click here, and you see I click by muscle memory here on the left side. Why? Because in Nuke, new nodes are always appearing where you last time clicked. So this is a habit which you have to adapt, that you click where you want to have the new nodes. I press then the R key. And I take now this text, which is a PNG here. You see it's a different format. And I click open, and you see the node is now exactly where I clicked last. Let's select the node and press the 1 key again. And now you see, okay, this is a simple text here. And if you now take a look here, you see that the olives are now a step down, and the new read node, which is now read node 1, is 1 step above, because this was the last node which we added. I want also to rename this node, and I show you a different way. If you want to rename a node, you can select it and press the N key on your keyboard for rename, and then you can type, for example, my text, and you see this changes the node text as well. Great. What we now have to think about is something interesting. We've loaded 2 plates, and both plates have absolutely different sizes. You see that here. This is this strange number here, And if you select this plate here, you see it's also a strange number. Nuke is able to load in every plate size as you like. So you can work in every stream with its own plate size, no problem. But at the end, you normally want to output a predefined size, because if you make a movie, for example, or a commercial, or even a little video for YouTube or Instagram, it has a predefined size. You can convert sizes all the time here. So for this we have nodes, but there is one catch in it. There are some nodes inside of Nuke which need sizes. One of them, let's go here back to image, is for example generator nodes. A constant node is for example a generator node. So let's take one and hook it up. A constant node delivers a color plane, yeah, and this color plane needs a size. And if I take a look here now, you see this color plane is 2K super 35 full aperture. So this is a predefined format, and it doesn't fit to these two formats. The reason for this is Nuke has to generate this now. And the format is here in this dropdown. You see, this is named a root format, important concept, and here is the size. And you can switch formats, and you see there's a whole bunch of different formats which you can use for this node. And the best way of working inside of Nuke is the first thing you normally set is the size of your project. The reason for this is generator nodes. And another thing is there's a node which you use all the time, which is a roto node or roto paint. And if you use a roto node and you have an open input at it, it always uses the project settings. And that's dangerous, because if you later decide to change the project settings, because when you started with the comp, you don't decided which size you want to have, and then suddenly you change it, all the positions will be wrong. So you have to fix it by giving it the right size. And to prevent all these errors, it's always good to think about sizes. So where to do that? I clear up first all of that. So I click this little icon here. So everything is clean now. And you can go here to Edit Project Settings, or you can use the keyboard shortcut S. And S is meant while you are over the node graph. So if you press now S, you are here in the project settings. And inside of the project settings, you see here's the path where this script lives. You can comment a little bit here what you are doing, why you are doing it, and so on. Here's the frame range, which is later important when we animate. Frames per second, yeah, maybe it's also important for you. You see it's for film, 24 frames per second, but you can change it. And here is the full size format. So this is the standard format in which Nuke works, 2K. And this is maybe the thing you want or you not want. And what we want now is we can change here the format. And this list is the same list like we've seen in the constant node. But an interesting fact is, do you see that there are two formats here which have no name? Nuke keeps track of every plate which you input. And we have inputted this text, which has this strange format here, and also the olives. So it adds these formats here because it thinks, okay, maybe you want to use as your settings format one of these two formats, which is really often the case. In my case, I really want to use the olive format, but I first want to show you how to use a new format. So you can go here to new, because you want to do, for example, an Instagram thing or whatever. And then you get this new format here, and you write here, for example, square is the name of your new format. And then you can enter here, for example, the size of this. Yeah, and we have some more options here, but I think they are really self-explanatory. I click here on OK. And now we have a square format here, and now we can use it. So if we want to go back here to our constant node, let's open it. And I go here to this color wheel here and click the color wheel and bring the red here to 1 so that we see it here red. And now you can go here to the format, and now you see it's using the root format, which is now exactly what we said. But you also can open this up here instead of the project settings, which is named root format. You also can go in here and look for the square format if you like that. So here it is, you can click it. And now this here is in square format. And if you make a new constant node and look here, you see it always uses now the root format. So that's the safe haven now. So let's go back to the settings. I press the S key again, and what we want is we want to use the olives format, which I think is that here. So I select that, and the number is nice, but I don't understand later what it is. So after selecting this and ticking this, we go here to edit, and now we can give this here a name, and I name this olives, for example. Okay. Now everything is set. I close the whole clutter here. And if you later want now to change here the constant node, because it's a generator, you can go here to the format and say, now I want to use the olives format. And here we are. Now we have an olives format. So 2000 something, and we have 2000 something. Yeah, now it works. Okay, let's get rid of these guys. We don't need them at all. But now we have the olives format. And if we now hook up the olives, you see that these two numbers here have sense. The top number here is always the real pixel size, and the number here in these brackets is the name of the format. And if you don't have a format with a name because it's new, then we have these brackets around the same number. If you have named your format, like in the olives here, you see here's the name of the format and here's the real pixel size. Okay, I hope this makes sense for you. The next step would be now I want to bring these two guys here together so that we can make a comp. And if you go to Photoshop or After Effects, you make a new layer. If you look here to the menu and see here this icon, which looks like a layer, you see that it's named Merge. And there is one node with the layer, it's a layer contract sheet, but you will see that it doesn't do anything which you want. If you want to connect streams inside of Nuke, you use a merge node. And you see merge has a keyboard shortcut, which is M. There are also some merges which have predefined modes, but we use the standard merge node here, so M key. And what I do here is I click somewhere where I want to place it and press the M key, and now you have added this node here. Let's analyze what this node does. We see here we have two inputs here at the top, A and B. We have one guy on the right side, which is a mask input. And we have one here at the bottom where we get the output. So it's a typical node in a node-based system. And the first rule which you have to learn now in Nuke Compositing is that the B input is extremely important. B delivers all the data through. What does it mean? Let's talk about our format again. If you want to hook this up, you can go here, say I want to have a connection here, B is now hooked up, and I say 1 here to show now what merge does. You now see suddenly that this here delivers the format olives. Great, because B is hooked up here. But what we do now, and this is something I think I have to show it with the text, so it's better to show it with the text, sorry for that. I go here now to the text. B is the format, and if I now hook it up, you see at the moment the merge still delivers because two open ports, project settings. But if I hook it up now to the text is on the B port and it delivers now the size of the stream. And now you see you change the size. If you don't do it on B, if you hook it up on A, you will see the same here. Why? Because we don't have any other information. So let's take the olives here now. And now comes the interesting part. If we have, make it nicer. So on the B, the olives, the format, which is olives, delivers the format here, and A comes to that. Now we want to change these two inputs to demonstrate that. And you can do it the hand way. So get rid of that. B is now that. A is now that. You see, format is now the format of the text because B is the format here. Now you see it like that. Or you can change inputs by selecting a node and press Shift X, like exchange. And now you see what I try to explain you here. Shift X. So the B input is really important. It's not only for the format, many other things. For example, if you have many channels here, we talk later about channels, all the channels are piped through. And this here gets added to that. So this is the addition normally. Okay, I hope this makes sense. So another way of adding a merge node, so I delete it here, is you can press the M key and bring it into a stream. You see when you hover over a line like this, you see it hovers, and Nuke knows that B is important, so it always hooks up B here, and then you can add with the A the other one. And for the fast people is this way. So what you can do is select the first node, shift, select the second node. So first node click, shift down, second node M key. And now you see the first node is then on A, the second node is on B, and the merge is there. Okay, now we have a merge. And you see it's a little bit different like in a layer-based system, but this is the same here from the effect. So this layer here is the background B, and this here is a foreground at the moment. Important fact for this, to have that working here, it's important that your image here has an alpha channel. So I select this node and press the 1 key so that we are back here. And you see now here, okay, we have a white text on a black background. But if I now press the A key while I'm over this here, you see here that we switch here. You remember in the last lesson I told you we are now looking at RGB. And if I press the A key, you are switching to the alpha, and you see this is also the alpha channel. So I've stored the PNG within alpha. And so there is nothing where we have this here. So don't forget to press A again or switch back to RGB. And this nothing is now used here from the merge node. So that's the reason why we see only the text but not the round here. So this here has an alpha. You also see it here with these little rectangles, RGB, and this white one here shows you, there's an alpha. You see here my olives is a JPEG. They only have RGB but no alpha. And the output here has an alpha. Okay, let's talk briefly about the merge node. So to bring it up here, double click. Now we have it at the top of the list. If you are now coming from applications like Photoshop, for example, you know, okay, I have a layer, the text over the olives, but maybe I want to change the layer mode, so the operation and so on. And if you take a look here now, you see that also the merge has operations. And if you open this up, you have a whole bunch of operations. And some of them are really clear if you come from applications like Photoshop. So over is really laid over it, but you also can multiply it. Yeah. So if you select that here now, you see now these two are multiplied and you get a different result for that. Or you can go here to soft light, for example, and so on. A little tip here, if you are inside of this drop down and it's active, you then can use the arrow keys up and down to go through all these nodes to see what's the difference between them. So you can start playing with that here. I think over is good. And the next thing which is now important for us is here the mix. So sometimes you want to change the layer opacity. And for this is the mix. And you will find the mix in many different nodes. So the mix means how much of the effect of this node is really brought into the stream. So you can fade out the effect a little bit. In our case here, the merge. And you see it works fine here. Okay. I hope this merge node makes now a little bit more sense to you. And the next thing I want now to do is I want to make also a little bit of color correction. And for changing colors, we have here a color segment. And we have a whole bunch of interesting color nodes. The most used is grade, so which has a G here, and the color correct is C. So these are the two nodes we start with. And I think for the thing I now want to do is color correct the best one, so C key. And you can click here and press the C key, and then you get here the color correct, and you can bring it somewhere here. But what you also can do is, if you select the node, for example, in our case, the olives, and then press the C key, you see that the node is automatically put into the stream after the selected node. So that's also a way which is really interesting. And one of the questions which always come up if people start with Nuke here is where to place it. The easy answer is what you want to change. Do you want to change the whole result of text and the olives? Then you have to place it here. Or I press Command-Shift-X to extract the node from here. Otherwise, you have to go in here and make new connections. So this to this, and then you bring it out. And yeah, see, it takes too long. Control-Shift-X is faster. Or do you want to change only the olives. And in my case, I only want to change the olives. So I take the color correct and place it here, and I make sure that I see it. If I bring the viewer to the side, you see at the moment we see the output of the merge. It's okay because we see the olives after the color correct inside of the merge, but maybe you only want to see the olives. So you select the color correct and press the 1 key to hook it up. And in Nuke trainings the newbies really often have a problem because they forget that the viewer doesn't show the end result like in applications like Photoshop or so. You always see where the viewer is hooked up. So this is one of the things which you have to keep in mind all the time. You see it here, so sometimes it's useful to bring the view a little bit to the side to see the line here. Or another interesting thing is you see here in this drop down always the name of the node which you are showing. So, okay, let's go to here the output of the color correct because that's exactly what we now want to change. And I go now here into the color correct. We will talk about these nodes a little bit more. I want to increase the saturation. So I go here to saturation, I have here a slider, and now I start playing with the saturation here and bring it a little bit up. If you want to reset, remember Control-click here on the slider, resets, but in our case, overdo it a little bit, make a nice saturated image here, great. And if we now want to see the whole result here, I go to Merge and look at that, looks great I think. Last thing we want to do with the image is, I don't want to have the text on the left side, I want to have it on the right side here. But if you go to the merge here, there's no placement at all in it. Yeah, and if you come from Fusion, this is a thing which you maybe miss here. Where's the placement? And inside of the text node, there's also no placement because this read here is only reading in the file, but no positions at all. If you want to move or transform something, you need a transform node. And there's a whole bunch of transform nodes here. And the standard transform, which we use all the time, is this transform, which has the keyboard shortcut T, like transform. Okay. We want to have it after reading in the image. So I select this node and press the T key. And here's our transform. I place it here so that we see it better. I can get rid of the text node here. And this is the transform node. What also happened is, if you look into the viewer, you see here that we have now a widget in the viewer. So you can work numerically here, or you can work with the widget here. And if you take the widget here a little bit closer, if you grab it from the middle, you see you can move the whole thing, and this changes here the translate. If you take this longer line here, this is the rotation, which you change here. This is rotate. Control-click here on the slider to get back. Then you can go here into these areas, and I stay here at the outside circle, and now I click and I hold down and I drag. You see now I'm scaling proportionally. And what I also can do is I can go over these points here, and if I drag now here, you see I scale now not proportionally. And the last thing is I can take these lines here and make something like this skew. I don't know if I ever used that, but yeah, maybe it's a creative thing. Okay, so I reset everything here. And what I now do is I place the thing here at the corner. If you have the need that you have to move the widget here around because you want to rotate around a point here, you can hold down your control key. And if you hold down the control key and then take the widget here, you can place it everywhere. So I place it here, for example. And if you now rotate, you can rotate it like this. But maybe you need that not. So this is the center. You can set the center here to 0 if you want, or you bring it back here to the middle. And then I don't want to have the rotate. Place it here. Here we go. And I think that's good. So the widget vanishes when you close the node here completely or you collapse it. So if you want to check it without the widget, you can collapse it. Last way of getting rid of the widget is the Q key, like quit. It's a little bit dangerous key because you deactivate all the overlays, not only this here, but also here, the numbers and so on. You get a warning here, and the overlay is off at the moment. So if you press Q again, you get your widgets back. But yeah, if you don't want to play with these overlays, you can collapse that. So now We have made our first impressive comp. Great. We have a size here. Everything is nice here. What we now want to do is we want to save the image out now. And to save something out in a tree like this here, what we have to do is we need a node for that. And this is a write node. You find it here under these nodes here. There's the write node, keyboard shortcut W. And I select the last node here, press the W key. So I have now write node here. You can rename it. You remember N key, and we say, what's the name of that? For example, Instagram. Okay, and now we take a look into the write node. What we have here is what we want to write out. RGB is in the moment okay. We don't output an alpha because we don't have an alpha, but we can switch that here. We also can output an alpha. In our case, it's not used. Then we have here the file where we want to save it. So I click here. I go into my folder here where my Nuke scripts. Now I want to have in this area here a new folder. So for this, there's here an icon, create a new directory here. We say this is renderout. Okay. I dive into that and now I name the file. So stay fresh, for example. And if you want, you can now make a dot here and type the file format which you want. For example, let's take PNG. If you now press save, the image is not saved. It's only configuring this node. And you will see that after entering here .png here, we have some new options. The reason for this is now Nuke knows the file type. Before that, it doesn't know what, and you know from all these file types that they have different settings. So Nuke waits for the right file type to give you the settings, but you can switch them here. But keep in mind that you also maybe have to change here the extension. So we want to have a PNG. It can be 16-bit here. That's nice. Color space sRGB is also nice. We don't have an animation, so we don't have to think about naming every of these files, because if you have an animation, it overrides every image, because every image would have the same name. And if you need an image sequence, you need to make placeholders for the numbering. But this is something we don't need. We do in the next session. So we have everything set, and now we can click here, render. And if you have more than one write node, which is absolutely possible, you can write in one step many write nodes at the same time, because you need a big version, a small version, a saturated version, a grayscale version, and so on. You have here a render button where you can say render all the write nodes at once. So it's a big time saver. In our case, we are still little here. So we go here into this, we say now render, and then it asks me, okay, which frames do you want to render? And it's frame 1 to 1, so that's absolutely okay. It's frame 1. We say yes, do it. And it takes now a while. It's calculating, makes its PNG, and hopefully the PNG is now saved out. Let's check this, make a read node here. And now you see in my folder here, renderout, there's a PNG. I select that, I load it, and I set my view on it. And congratulations, you made your first comp here inside of Nuke. So I know this is beginner stuff, but I hope it helped you to understand a little bit more how this system works. In the next lesson, we want to dive deeper into node-based compositing. And I'm really happy if you like these videos. So if you like them, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, see you in the next lesson. If you have questions, please write them in the comments or write me an email. My name is Helge Maus from pixeltrain. Have fun.